Welcome, folks, to another edition of Dragonfly Darting. I've been promising to do this video since the beginning of the year, but I kind of got sidetracked playing matches and recording and posting matches on Dynamite Dave's initial Bomb Squad Premier League. But now as first season is winding down, I'm going to do as I promised and put this video out. This video is a continuation of my Getting Started videos for young boys and girls who want to get started in darts. But before that, I'd like to do a little brief history on the development of darts as I know it. When darts first started being played seriously, darts were made out of wood. And here's one in particular. You see they have feathered flights. They're all one piece. The flights don't come off. And they have a lead band around them. Here's another version. Pretty short points. Fairly fat barrels. And the lead is to give the darts different weights. The green ones are about 12.5 grams. And these, you can see have a little more lead in them, are around 15, maybe a little over 15 grams. So when darts started to be made out of metal, they were either made out of brass or chrome. See, these are chrome. They're basically a standard length of around 50 millimeter, but they're fairly fat. And these are 25.5 grams. And of course, when these are also around the same length, but they're made out of brass, they're thinner, and they only weigh around 17 grams. So of course, when you have a dart like this, it's pretty difficult to get all three in the triple 20. So they started adding tungsten to darts so they can make them thinner. And here's my current setup, which are the same 50 millimeter barrels. I do have longer points in them, but we'll get to these darts later on in the video. So let's get right down to the meat of it, and we'll get on with it. To give you some idea of what kind of darts were available back in the day, this is a catalog from 1974, the year before I came over to the US of A. And so it's 48 years old, and it gives you some idea of what kind of darts were available. See right here, there's a picture basically of a similar darts to these, and you can see they have a little rough spots that had some grip. But these are kind of medium barrels. You see the different shapes. These are going on to heavy barrels. And you can see basically how fat they were, and it must have been tough to get a 1080 with these kind of darts. Over here, they got some specialty darts. And you can say they had some weird kind of shapes back in the day. Not, basically standardized like they are today. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So there are so many posts on Facebook and darting sites about what kind of darts you want to buy, what kind of setup should you use, and that's the reason I did this video. What you do, I mean, before you start spending hundreds of pounds or even hundreds of dollars on your favorite player's darts and all the accessories to go with it, try an inexpensive set of darts first. I think you should get your throw down as best you can first before you start buying, expensive equipment. Windmount Navigator 3. They're right in the middle of the dart range. They're 23 grams. They have 50 meter barrels with standard 34 millimeter points. So what I'm going to do first, I have 2 sets of these darts. So I've set up 5 of them with different flights like this, going down from the largest standard flight, going down through shape, kite, fantail, and slim. And these all these darts will throw and landing the board differently, and I'll show you that in a little while. The purpose of the demonstration, I put mid-range 40mm stems on them, non-spinning, but the Navigators come with 2 sets of 48mm stems, 2 sets of standard flights, a outshot card, and come in a hard plastic case you can carry around with you. Plus, they also have 2 extra sets of these rings that kind of hold your flight in there. Let me get this set up, and we'll show you how these darts are probably going to fly for you. So, as you can see from my board, a flight will affect the way a dart flies pretty much. The more air that flows over this big flight is going to slow the dart down, and it will dip. This one is a shaped flight. It does not have as much effect on the dart, but it still will be slightly up. Going down to the bottom, this flight doesn't have a lot of air going over it, and it's going to fly faster, be a little more unstable, and probably land flight down, or even if you don't throw it right, it might go like this and fall out. And even this fantail flight could land flight down also. You know, you can compare it to the wings on a plane. The bigger the plane, the bigger the wings are. If you put a little set of wings on a 737 jet, it's not going to stay up there very long, and so forth. Generally speaking, the heavier the dart, the bigger the flight. The length of shaft also will affect the way your dart lands in the board also. This is the one I use for the demonstration. You can use a shorter shaft like this, and this won't make much of a difference, but this shaft weighs a little less than this one does. So the center of gravity of your dart is different. So whereas this dart might land like this one might land like this. So if you could make a bigger difference, like going from this shaft to this shaft, then where this dart might land like this one could land like that, and so forth. Different length points won't make much difference to where your dart lands. It will a little bit, but it will affect the way, how long it does take for the dart to get to the board. So this is a standard point that comes with most darts, and you can see I put longer points on this one. This dart, this point is 1.5 grams. These are 1 gram. So there's a 50% difference in the weight of the dart. The difference this point will make, it keeps the barrel a little further away from the board, so you have a little more space to get the next dart in, you know, if you're trying to get it to an 80. This is hundreds of flights you can buy. There's literally hundreds of different stems you can buy. As I said before, you know, these are regular polycarbonate medium stems. These are solid, but you can also buy these in spinning versions, whatever you want. Here's another version of a carbon stem. Because of the carbon, it's supposed to be unbreakable, unbendable. It's very narrow. And one other thing about regular kind of shafts, which I don't use anymore, is flights tend to come out of the shaft when you're playing. And sometimes it can get a little difficult, especially for me, because I wear glasses to shoot darts, and I have a different set of glasses to read with. So just recently, I switched to Cosmo shafts. They are more expensive. They cost $7.50 a set, whereas, other stems you can get for $1 or $2. But they have 3 different kinds, and this is what I use now. If they have a flat top, the flights won't spin. But as you can tell, and I will put a flight on there, you just pop them right on. The non-spinning ones do the same thing. So if it comes off, and put it right back on again. Very simple. Now, of course, they have 3 different models. This is the slim version, this is a hybrid version, and this is a standard version. You can see it's a solid shaft all the way down. This is only solid halfway up, and this is narrow. And they do affect the flight of your dart, because this one is heavier than that, and this one is heavier than that. And the way I have my dart set up, this is the way these land in the board. Exactly. This one is up more than this one is, and because of the way I have my dart set up, the heavier shaft tends to let the dart go down a little more than I prefer. So, to round out this section, what my advice is, and of course it's not the only advice out there, and obviously you can get more opinions, and we'll talk about that later. You need to get an inexpensive set of darts. Start throwing. You all know, if you've seen my other videos, that I am now using Dynamite Dave's mechanical throw, and it's working for me. You need to find out, how do you want your darts to land in the board. If you want your darts to land like the top one, you can come underneath the dart with the next dart and hit the triple 20. These other 2, you're going to have to come across the top like this, and definitely like this. So decide how you want to land your darts in the board. Practice, perfect it. And if your darts are not landing, then you can start using different flights. If your darts land like this, and you want them to land like this, you can choose a smaller flight, which will help you get this far. Too small a flight, like we said before, will make your darts land like that. So once you've practiced and perfected your throw so that the darts are all landing evenly, once you do that, you should be able to throw any dart with any setup and land where you want them to land. And we'll show you that in the next section. So folks, this first part should have given you plenty of information to think about. In the second part of this series, I'm going to show you how, once you get your own throw perfected, you should be able to throw any dart with any setup and get them to land in the board the way you want them to do. I'll also go into more detail about flights and stems and how I set up my own darts the way I did. So until then, bye for now, and we'll happy shooting. Practice often.